It takes a special kind of hardy person to live out on the wind-whipped tundra off Hudson Bay. Dave Daly and his rescued sled dogs have lived here their whole lives.
I've never had to kill a bear. Well, a polar bear. I like eating black bears, but I mean, the point is that, you know, I've faced down. I've been charged several times by bears.
The local people of Churchill, Manitoba fully realize the potential dangers of living with polar bears, especially during bear season.
Compared to the other bear species, polar bears are way more likely to exhibit predatory behavior on people.
Dr. Doug Clark is a scientist that studied polar bear behavior for decades and more recently has tried to understand what might cause more polar bear-human interactions.
All the great research that has been done on bear-human conflicts over the years was all done with the assumption that the physical environment, the biological environment was stable. And now we know that that's no longer the case. So I think we need to be looking in the bear-human conflict and bear-human interaction world more closely at what environmental variability is likely to mean for interactions between people and bears of all species. And, you know, if things changing means that things are likelier to go bad, then, you know, we probably need to rethink the rules and adapt.
Those rules are changing. The Arctic and subarctic regions are warming at a pace faster than the rest of the planet, and that has impacts on the planet's biggest land predator.
You know, here in Hudson Bay, every year the ice melts out for, you know, typically about 4 or 5 months. That amount of time that the ice melts out and stays melted out has been growing longer on average over the past few decades. And, you know, your own work, which you've been showing people here the last few days, you know, really clarifies that it's kind of a bumpy, noisy signal, and it can really vary year to year, but the long-term trends are quite clear.
Polar bears need sea ice to hunt their main food, seals. More days on land means polar bears and humans could be facing each other more, but every bear is different, and the local people understand that dynamic.
Like, bears are like dogs. They have different personalities too. I've seen mean bears, I've seen shy bears, I've seen curious bears, you know? I've seen disrespectful bears and I've seen respectful bears. So it's just a matter of getting to know your area, who lives in there, and what you have to deal with.
The prevailing thought has been that skinny bears may be the bigger problem, looking for a meal and potentially running into people. But Dr. Clark's recent work shows that might not be the case.
Turns out that skinny bears around here, at least, are no more likely to come around camps or the study center than any other bears. The big push comes from just how long they've been stuck on shore off the ice.
This year has been a long period on land for polar bears. The ice went out early this summer with 90-degree temperatures recorded in Churchill, their 10th hottest ever recorded.
You know, just in going in and out of town, we've seen a couple bears, which seems a little unusual too. And this year we have a late freeze up again.
Yeah, so this is a really interesting year, and it's not abnormal to see a lot of bears around. I mean, by any standards, there are a bunch around every year. This year, you're right. Like this is a really busy landscape for bears, and people are seeing them all the time. Honestly, I was surprised we didn't see one today. Kind of glad, but you know, given what we were doing and where we were, but yeah, like this is a year where, you know, everybody says, yeah, you got to be on your toes this year because there are just so many around.
An increasing number of years with bad ice is leading to a decline in the western Hudson Bay polar bear population. A recent survey showed a 27% decline in just 5 years. Some of that was movement to other areas, but some was a significant drop.
Reproduction in the western Hudson Bay population is still very low. Survival of subadults is very low. Once a bear makes it to adulthood, it's likely to do okay, but it's those younger years that are the toughest on them.
It's unlikely polar bears will go extinct anytime soon, but they will almost certainly disappear from some of their current range.
Will Churchill be the polar bear capital of the world in a century, do you think?
So I think a century is probably a fairly safe bet to say probably not.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I don't think the species is going to go extinct.
There's been an important shift in recent years involving Indigenous people and local populations in the north in the management and science of polar bears, climate, and conservation.
A lot of northern communities have had a lot of things done to them in the name of, you know, science and conservation. And you know, there's there's some redress to be had, and we need to do a better job because those folks deserve us doing a better job than often has been the case so far.
And they'll be most affected by the success or not of the polar bear.
They've got the most at stake in all of this. So really, it's a fundamental principle of fairness that those with the most at stake should have the greatest say in decisions.